The most engaging, impactful, informative, and entertaining talk show ever. Get ready to hear the voices of many local, state, and national artists, musicians, comedians, pastors, athletes, and politicians. It's time for South Florida Live with Jeffrey Brown. The most engaging, impactful, informative, and entertaining talk show ever. Get ready to hear the voices of many local, state, and national artists, musicians, comedians, pastors, athletes, and politicians. It's time for South Florida Live with Jeffrey Brown. All right. Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the South Florida Live Podcast. Listen, I'm your host, Jeffrey Brown, and as we always say, this is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Listen, y'all come on in. Those that are viewing, I'm going to give you time for this one because you need to hear this testimony. You need to hear this journey tonight. It's going to be powerful. You do not want to miss this episode. Listen, our special guest tonight is coming. Listen, I can't wait. They're a survivor. We're going to give you time. Let's do this. Hey, listen, those that are viewing by Facebook, come on in. Let's share. Please share. I want sharing going on tonight. Those that are viewing by YouTube, please hit the like and share button and let someone know. Let some others know that the South Florida Live Podcast is on, and we want them to join us on tonight. We're talking about a survivor on tonight. We're dealing with domestic violence on tonight, and we have a survivor tonight. So you need to come and join us on tonight. Would you do that for me, please? Good evening, Lady Elaine D. Nelson. God bless you. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for joining us. Let's like and share. Let's tag some people. Even when I thought that was no good, you still cared for me. Still surviving. I'm still surviving and thriving, thanking God for all the God. I'm still surviving. All right, let's go. Let's do this. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a little time because I want us in on this one. I want us in on this one. That was Jill Wired, survivor. Y'all, we're talking to one tonight. You don't want to miss it. So come on. YouTube, let's go. YouTube, come on in. YouTube, let's go. Those are on all my platforms. YouTube, South Florida Live, my YouTube, my Facebook, and the South Florida Live Facebook. Come on, give me some love. Give me some hearts. Let me know you're there. please tag and share with someone. Let them know the South Florida Live podcast is on, and we are honoring Domestic Violence Month tonight, and we're dealing with the life of a survivor. We're talking to one tonight, so come on in. Let's go.
Through Christ, I'm a survivor. Come to know that God is light and watch your candle get brighter. Just read on Samson and Delilah, life is planned to surprise. But furnish me through blazing heat, Lord, can I handle the fire? All my battles in this life with so much pressure on me. But all my trials and my tests are not my testimonies. Thankful for life and all the times God sent a blessing on me. And now I see through everything that I was never lonely.
All right, we're going to give you about 30 seconds, everyone. Come on in. Let's join us tonight.
Even when I thought that was no good, you still care for me. You care for me. Still surviving.
Yes, we are talking with a survivor tonight. You need to join us on tonight. Be a part of this episode, if you will. Like and share, comment. 10 seconds. All right. Listen, once again, welcome to everyone to the South Florida Live podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Brown, and thank you for coming in. Listen, I hope everyone experienced peace and blessings on today. If you went to work, if you were at home, your day was very productive, and you had a wonderful day on today. Listen, we're going to get started. We're going to start this thing. We're going to get this thing off. Listen, y'all know it's early voting. Early voting has started. Early voting has started. Please. I'm going to talk about it more on tomorrow, on Wednesday. Let's talk about the things that matter. But we need to get out and vote. You need to tell somebody to vote. You need to take somebody to vote, if you will. This thing is very crucial. This election is very crucial. It's very important this year. Not that, the regular other ones aren't, but this one, listen, we are not voting just for our rights. We're voting for the life of our children, our grandchildren, our future. We need to get out and vote. Okay. No vote. If you don't vote, that's just like you didn't vote. I'm not voting. Oh, wow. You just made a big mistake. So let's vote. Let's get out and vote in record numbers, if you will. Let's do that. I'm gonna talk more about that on Wednesday. Hey, listen, I'm ready to get started. My co-host is with me on tonight, the one and only, the only one that I know. The doctor is in the house. Dr. Deborah Howard Burton is with us again this evening. My sister, good evening to you.
Good evening, Elder Brown. And how are you doing this evening?
Hey, listen, I'm doing well. I discovered some things on me, but I'm doing well in spite of. Doing well. I'm going to stay focused here. I'm doing good. I had a real productive day. It was a little busy, crazy, but a productive. How about yourself?
Just great. I just want to remind everybody I did do my constitutional duty. I did go out and vote today. And so I want to encourage everyone else to go out there and make your vote count.
Yes, we have to do that. I will be going tomorrow morning early to do mine and take care of that on tomorrow. So when I come back tomorrow evening, I'll be able to talk some junk. I can't talk talk about voting if I ain't did it, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get out there and do it. Once again, I want to tell you thank you in front of everyone. Thank you again for taking out your busy schedule to do this, to be my co-host, to discuss domestic violence with us, and it is so needed. It's a needed conversation, a needed discussion. Not just in the month, but all the whole year. If you could, I would, and I'm thinking about it. Lord placed something in my spirit to probably do something once a month.
Great. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
great.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
He really placed it in my spirit the other week after Sabrina to you know what? Let's try and see if we can do something. Not probably starting next year where we'll do something every month.
That's
We'll hit on it every month. Bring it on and have that conversation because it is so broad, it is so large. I'm
Mhm.
still praying. I'm still praying for that brother. That brother's out there. Come on, man. Whenever you're ready, contact us because we'd like to hear from a brother who have experienced that domestic violence and share that testimony with so many others that doing it. But we like to do it in silence. But we're praying. We're praying and believing. So yeah. So I don't know how we're gonna work it out, Doc, but I'm giving you the heads up. I just put you out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Always be prepared. Always be ready. You don't know when your assignment may come, but just be prepared and
Yeah,
be
I just
ready. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
I just put you out there because you hit me a year ago with this. So
I hear you. I hear
that
you.
told me you serious about this thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
get it.
I'm serious. I'm so serious. I'm clowning, but I'm serious that the Lord did after Sabrina. He really put it in my spirit, man. I slept good that night after, but I was a little restless that night just thinking about it. So yeah, next year, hopefully we can get together and talk about it and do something every month, once a
Okay,
month,
great.
if we can.
That's wonderful.
That sounds
Wonderful.
good. All right,
That
all right,
sounds
all right. Maybe we'll bring our guests back.
okay.
We'll
That would
see.
be great.
We'll see. Yeah. As long as she come as she is.
Uh,
Um, yeah. Listen, we got our guest. We have our survivor with us, Doc. Do we want to
yes.
go ahead and bring her on, or anything that you want to say ahead of time before we bring her on?
Yeah, let me just go on. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just want to applaud you for being on the forefront as a male and being an activist and bringing this, I don't want to say epidemic, because we've all talked about it for so long, not only during October, but if we watch the news lately, you can see, I just saw last week after we had a conversation, uh, homicide, suicide, as far as
Mm,
domestic violence related. The children are involved. Just
mm,
read in West Palm Beach, I think it was a police officer and his wife, he killed her, and they both were in law enforcement. It was on the news that it was domestic
wow,
violence. And so
wow.
I think it's interesting now that we are on the forefront, not only to talk about it and hear it from the survivors, but maybe offer some solutions as far as a toolbox in order to assist victims and families on how
Mhm.
to process this. And I'm so glad that you did mention that males are victims of domestic violence. It's just prevalent because women are more active to talk about it, and women more have been the victims or survivors. And
Yeah,
we discussed this last week. About 70%, 75% of our congregation are women. And so we know domestic violence is happening in the pews, silence in the pews. And we
yeah,
also know that there are some instances that some of the perpetrators are in the pulpit or on the deacon board or anywhere else. And those are some other subjects. And that's just because, with my experience
wow.
being a domestic violent, uh, when I was a victim advocate, I would say
Mhm.
about 80% of my cases were domestic violence related. And I was a victim advocate, just coming on those you don't know. I was a victim advocate, lead victim advocate for our sheriff's office for 34 years. And so
Mhm.
I've seen domestic violence change from 30 years from what it was back in the early 90s to what it is now. I see how the law has changed. And I know this is seen worldwide, but just so in
Mhm.
Florida, it is now domestic violence. We used to think of it as a male and a female. And I know for the purposes of right now, what we're discussing, we won't have a a female survivor come on. But the law in Florida is family and or household member or related by blood, because now you have grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, and the grandchildren are hitting the grandparent or grandmother. That's part of the violence because they're related by blood. So so much of the gamut that's out there, especially when we talk about children. So we won't get into that that so much tonight. We will discuss with our survivors some of the issues, but I do want to just name a little bit before we get into that. Domestic violence is learned behavior. You are not born coming into it, is learned behavior. So learned behavior is that you've seen it from somewhere, whether it's the media or definitely our music. And that's a whole nother gamut. We can talk in the women, and it's almost like it's I just want to recall that I did a mentoring class with some teenagers in high school. And this is when the Chris Brown situation came up. And I would say 90% of the young women in the class said Chris Brown was okay to hit the female that he hit.
Wow.
I sat there and I said, why do you say this? And why did you say that? And so the stigma is the thinking point that sometimes with the music we listen to, and please don't write into Elder Brown that we are dissing rap music. We're not saying that. Please, I want to give that a little information out. We're not saying that, but when we are saying that music does, especially desensitize some of our young people on what violence is. And so domestic violence is a cycle of abuse. It's learned behavior. And I'll just give you a little quick scenario. We have the tension building stage, and that's when they're screaming, they're shouting, things are being broken in the house. It's not physical yet. Things are being broken in the house. He or she is hitting the wall, making a hole in the wall. And I am going to say that I am using them right now for this discussion, that the female will be the survivor, the victim, and the male will be the suspect or the perpetrator. And so that's going on. And so then after that, the incident, you have verbal abuse, you're ugly, you're stupid, and it becomes physical. During the incident, a lot of times law enforcement is called out. And sometimes, contrary to popular belief, sometimes law enforcement is not called out. The woman might not call, and we'll discuss later on why they don't call. And then all of a sudden we call the honeymoon stage or reconciliation. I love you. I didn't mean it. It wasn't your fault, or you made me do like this. I'm going to counseling. I'm going to church. If I am in the church, I'm going to the pastor. We're going to get all things together. And this is what the woman might have wanted to hear for a long time. And then it's the calmness. And then everything goes on and everything is calm. They're doing fine. And then the cycle continues again. And the issue is that we understand in relationships that some people do have arguments. And we're not saying all arguments will lead to domestic violence. What we are saying is that when it becomes physical, then there's issues and you can get arrested. And we'll talk about restraining orders, and not tonight or definitely next week, because the restraining order will not stop a bullet. And so a lot of people, when I've asked them to get a restraining order, they say, well, Ms. Burton, it's not going to stop a bullet. And that is correct. But it does give law enforcement the necessary paperwork legally that they can make an arrest, that if you have an injunction for protection. But anytime a woman or male or female in an abusive relationship decides to leave, as we discussed last week, that is the most vital time that anything could happen. Because now you're taking all the control from him and you're about to leave. So we'll talk about safety plans later on, but that's just a quick synopsis when we talk about the cycle of abuse. It is a cycle of abuse. And until you break the cycle through some counseling or some intervention, it's going to contribute. And you have to relearn how not to be violent. You have to relearn not to hit no one, especially if you've grown up in that type of situation and mom and dad stayed together and they cussed and fought all the time. They're together for 40 years. You know what I mean? And so you learn that that's okay. So we can get into Survivor. She must come on a little bit. Any questions?
No question. I'm ready to hear this journey, this story, man. Wow. I got my face because last week Sabrina almost broke me last week. She had me. She almost had me, boy. She almost had me. Hope Miss Thomas don't do the same.
That's okay.
But no, I'm so excited. I am excited. I appreciate that. I appreciate your comments, appreciate your words. I am very excited about this because, like I said before, it's not a subject, it's not a conversation, it's not an area that it's talked about. But it's like to me, I know it's probably not, but to me, it's like it's only talked about during that month and
Exactly.
more in detail during that 1 month. And I think it should be something that discussed and talked about and dealt with year round.
Yes.
That's why I said I believe the Lord placed it in my spirit to do it next year, where we that I do something at least once a month if I
Mhm.
can. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's it. All right. Hey, let's bring our guests on. The one and only. Yes, it is. Pretty lady.
Hey
Miss
everybody.
Hey,
Hello.
good evening, good evening, good
Good
evening.
evening, everybody.
How are you?
I am great.
I hope you had a productive day on today.
I did. Very
Great,
productive.
great. And I want to say again, thank you. Thank you
Mhm.
for coming on. Thank you for sharing because I know this is not easy. It's not easy to come on in front of a host of people and share your experience, share your testimony, your journey, and just have to reflect back on the past. So I want to tell you thank you.
And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Doc, there you go. I'll let y'all have it for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. It takes grace and it takes courage and perseverance to share your story because a lot of times we don't want to call it sometimes trigger moments, but anybody who's watching this tonight as we're discussing this, some red flags could go on and it could be a trigger moment also for them. So I think it is just wonderful that you're able to come on like our guest did last week and share your experience on how you are a survivor. And so we'll just go right into it. Let's talk. Let's go ahead and share your story, and we'll just dialogue and ask questions in between.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
did Let me ask you. So I'll start. Everybody. So how did it start off? How did it start off?
It started off when I was in high school. I was in high school and I met this guy. And ironically, I didn't even want to talk to him. I ignored him. I never gave him the time of day. And one day my sister, we was walking home from Miami Northwestern, and him and his friends was across the street. And he came over and I dismissed him. And my sister, I never forget, she said, give him a chance. Don't act like you all that. And from that day, I regretted it because I should have followed my first mind and my first instinct when I did meet him, and I ignored him the first couple of times when he tried. But nevertheless, moving forward, we end up in a relationship. And then maybe about a year later, he began to show signs. He was began to be very disrespectful, call me out of my name, mistreat me. Now, the first year, he was very nice, very kind, very thoughtful. He was very giving, and then all of a sudden, it's like he's switched off, like a light bulb just switched off, and he became somebody I did not know. But in reality, that's who he was. And after that, it was verbal abuse at first.
Mm.
And he used to say little things, you ugly. He'll say, you need to lose weight, stuff like that, to try to knock down my confidence because of how I look, the way I dress. And so I think he tried to break me that way. So when he saw that he couldn't, then he began to get physical. And that became maybe the latter part of that first year. And after that, I used to hide black eyes, going home and stuff like that because I wasn't really allowed to go to where he lived. My grandma kind of had us on a tight leash, so the whole world gonna know now. Sometimes I used to skip school.
Ooh, ooh.
I did. If I'm gonna tell a story, gotta tell it right.
Come on in.
Well, you
And
you
I
wasn't,
did.
you probably wasn't the only one.
uh-huh.
We,
I know,
we've all
right?
we've all did it.
And that's when the abuse started physically. And then he just became enraged. It's just like was so evident. Then my sister looked at me one day. She said, Jerry, what's wrong with your eye? I said, oh, nothing, nothing, and put on some makeup and kept it going. Sometime later on, I think the signs was when he used to disrespect his parents because I didn't see it until I started visiting his house. And I'm like, well, if your dad did that to your mother, Now I understand where you get it from because that's what you used to. So his dad used to beat his mom. His dad used to say bad things to her and mistreat her. And then he turned around and did the same thing to me. Now, on the contrary, I'm like, okay, my home wasn't like that. We didn't grow up that way. We didn't live in the household that way. Now, what I would like to say is sometimes I would like to speak to the women. Sometimes women that has a home that has no father look for in a man.
Mhm.
And that's where we go wrong. Because we looking for a father in a man, but he's not your dad. He's not your father.
Let
So
me
we
ask
have to be very careful of that because we tend to take things that we don't want to because you want to feel the love that you didn't get from your father.
Okay, I want to ask you right there. Thank you, and I like your story because you gave me some things. I'll let you continue because that's interesting that you said that. And so, are you saying that you didn't have a father figure in your life
Yes, I
at that
did.
time? You
No,
did not. You did
no.
not, and that's interesting. I'm glad that you're saying that. So you didn't have a father figure because I'm wondering when you said that you learned when you went to his house, you noticed the family dynamics, but in your house. So what was the family dynamics in your growing up? What did you have? I heard your grandmother raised you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I had the best grandmother ever. She was my best friend. My auntie, I had my aunt and my grandmother. They raised me. My mom, she just wasn't in the household, but she still kept us on the weekends and stuff like that. But the base of our home was with my grandma and my aunt
Mhm.
and my brother and my sister and my cousin. We had the best upbringing. We grew up in church. We was a loving family. Every Friday we had a family game night or we did a fish fry. Every Friday was something different, but it was family based. We
Mhm.
always had big Christmases. On Sundays, we always had Sunday dinners every Sunday. The pastor and preacher came to our house. Some of the members did. That was like a thing. And I had a very good childhood. Very
Mhm.
good. We, always had a nice home to live in. They always made sure that we had the best of things, and we had a great upbringing. I can't complain at all. The
And
only thing I can say is about growing up, I can say that I maybe saw that was bad. Maybe it was my uncles because they drink too much. But
mhm.
other than that, overall, we had a great childhood.
Yeah, and there's always going to be people.
Yeah,
Not just that family. All families have somebody who's going to
right,
drink and smoke and reefer doing something. We're not
right,
the Brady Bunch, but we do come together
right.
as a family. And so I'm listening because I like when you said that you were looking for that father indirectly, maybe subconsciously, that father figure, because I'm
Yeah.
listening that you say you grew up in a loving family, a loving house. So I'm trying to see so people can understand, even if you have that, how were you attracted to this behavior? Because like you said, your first instinct said, no, but then your sister kept saying, go ahead on. And so what was it then that attracted you? And we're going to get into when he hit you and you saw those signs. What is it that you said, well, let me just stay here? And what grade were you in?
I was in the ninth grade when I first met him. First day of school, looking for my classroom. I got lost. And
Mhm.
he helped me find my classroom. That's how we met. And that's the day I regretted I ever met him, ever regretted he ever helped me if I knew he was going to turn out that way.
And
But what attracted me to him was how he treated me and how he dressed. That's be honest. He always dressed well. He was handsome and he was popular. Now I didn't know that at the time, but that's what it really attracted me to him.
mhm. And
And
so, with you saying that, because I'm liking when I'm liking when you say, because there are some women like you that there's not a father figure. They're not all women. We don't want you right into the Dr. Brown. I'm calling you Dr. Brown now. With Elder Jeff Brown, we don't want you right into him and saying that women because they don't have that. But it's so interesting that you mentioned that because you didn't have a father figure. He dressed nice. You met him in the ninth grade, and a lot of times we don't get domestic violence, but it's also as dating violence, also intimate partner violence. And this is the same thing. So I'm glad you're sharing that portion of it, is that when you met him in the ninth grade and you start seeing little things. So what was the first red flag that you saw?
when he began to be quickly angered,
Okay.
for no matter what you said to him, he just jumped into it like you just angry, like you mad. No matter, it could be the simplest thing, and then you just start being enraged. Like it's just something simple
hmm And
that you would say to him, and like, why are you acting that way?
And I mean, you notice those red flags, because sometimes we notice the red and then they're yellow and the green. We say, okay, he'll change. What is it then that you saw this in the 9th grade and you're going on, I like the way he dressed, he's popular, he smelled good, he looked good, he all that. So, he might yell at me a little bit, but maybe he had a bad day or something, so I'm going to still stay with him. So take us into that part. So you spent the whole 9th grade like that with him?
No. Maybe like the first year was fine, like I said. The second year he began to be verbal, but then he'll like switch off and on. One time he'll be good. It'll be like a whole 6 months, like a perfect man, give you flowers, buy you things and stuff like that. And then he'll go, maybe one time he'll act out in a rage or whatever. And then I'm like, well, is something wrong with him? In my mind, I'm thinking like, what is wrong with you? And to be honest, it lasted long because I thought that I wanted to be loved by a man because I didn't have it from my father. I had it from my uncles, but it's different when you don't have a father. That's why I said it in the beginning. It makes a woman needs her father. It's the reason why God made woman and man to have a child, because they have significant roles. I believe it's just me. If I had my father, if he would have taught me how a man's supposed to treat me, then maybe I wouldn't been subjected to it. Not an excuse, but it's reality. So since I didn't have like that father figure in it that they teach me, okay, this is how you're supposed to treat me. This is how, I want to be treated and stuff like that. I look for love in the wrong place. And that's why I stayed so long. And plus, our heart grows fond of people when you begin to love them. We really don't know what really love is, but by that time, you you really love this person, or whatever, you got to know them, you thinking about the good and, or whatever versus the bad, but you recognize the bad. And that's the reason why I stayed so long, to be honest.
Because I'm looking at you, and what I want to get, because going in 9th grade, maybe 10th grade, did anybody else, any other men try to come and say, hey, let's go on a date, let's go out? Was anybody else do that? Because I'm looking at it, because like you're saying is and even though we'll do the disclaimer that even though we know this is your story that you're sharing, that there are some women who even have fathers and they still get an abusive situation, but we understand this is your story, your perspective. And so I'm looking to see that you're looking for a father figure, and thank you so much for being so transparent. You're looking for a father figure. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. Although you had love at home, but you didn't have that love from a man. Somebody could show you that you long for that. He was a verbal abusive to you. So I'm wondering then, did you have other gentlemen that also say, hey, let's go to the football game, let's go to this? And what happened? Did he get enraged with that?
I did. And no, because who he was, quote unquote, he was too popular for that to even happen. But I did, but it was private. And now I'll be honest too. I think when it got really bad, it was one of the football players. I did start to talk to him outside of talking to him, to try to, get away from him. Because at that time, I actually separated from him because I wanted to get away from him. And then I started, talking to somebody else secretly. Because if he would have known, it would have been the whole thing, like major, because of who he was.
And so you're afraid of him?
Yes, very much so.
That's what I want to get out with, and that's a normal response, because I'm looking, you went through so long that went there, and a lot of people stay because of fear, and you were so young. I'm just thinking, because a lot of women and teenagers go through the same thing, the fear in the 9th grade. And so did your sisters, anybody else notice that? Did anybody notice how controlling he was? You're a beautiful young lady. You're going to high school. You might see another. Did anybody notice the red flags, or did you cover? Because I'm going to get in that you covered for him.
I did. I covered for him, but they didn't really notice it maybe like 4 years down the road, because I covered up so well.
How many years?
Covered up so well. 4.
So you stayed with him for 4 years.
I stayed with him all through my years of high school, and 3 years after high school.
Wow, so 7 years. So for 4 years
of my life, yes.
So and for 4 years you covered for him, and you never dated anybody else?
No, I didn't.
And that's controlling. And
very much so.
And so in those 4 years, and I'm glad you're painting the story, how was he controlling? Did he look at your phones? Did he look at your texts? Did he follow you? Did he manage that? Because that's part of how people do it.
He followed me. He didn't want me to go to church. And if I did wanted to go to church, he made this big old argument. He'll try to fight me. But by the grace of God, I still went in. He was able to, escape to go. It was a lot because at one point, I used to go over there a lot. So sometimes I would spend the night. And I remember my auntie Betty Wright. I'm pretty sure y'all know who that is.
Mhm.
And she used to take me to church with her. And I remember one time when she came and got me, um, we was just had up. I was so afraid. And I remember her looking at me. She said, "What's wrong?" I say, "Oh, nothing." You try to fix your face and try to hold your emotions in. And I say, "No, nothing, nothing." She said, "What is wrong with you?" And when I told her, I was scared. But she said, she looked at me. She said, "You deserve it better. Go
Mhm,
home."
mhm.
We went to that church service. I never forget. And it was a lady that I can't remember the pastor's name, and she remember prophesying it to me that day. And she said, "God said He has a great calling on your life." And I remember her saying to me, she said, "God said He has better for you." And she said, "God set His future up for you and it's very bright." She said, "Always follow God and not follow your heart because sometimes your heart can deceive you." I
Mhm.
never forget that.
Wow.
And that day, I never forget, I had her take me to my grandmother's house. And when she took me to my grandma's house, I ran into her arms, just gave her a big old hug. And I remember her asking me, "What is this for?" I said, "Nothing, Grandma. I love you." And I said, "You always made me feel safe." And I
Mhm.
never forget, she looked at me and she looked at me and hold my head up like this. And she said, "Always know that you always better than someone else." She said, "Never let your head down." She said, "Hold your head up high because you just as good as somebody else. You don't let nobody mistreat you." And I
Wow.
never told her anything.
Wow.
So she
Okay.
knew.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Host Brown.
Yeah, because I was getting ready to say, Mother knows. We said that last week. Mama
Yeah.
know, Mama
Yes.
know, Mama. But I think back in those days, they just they didn't get in. They should have gotten in your business, but I mean, sometimes they in that area. They don't say it until you're ready for it. Now, there are some things that I want to address. I want to go back on. And I wrote, someone made a comment, and I'm gonna ask you this one too.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to, I think, high school, when
Mhm.
your first meeting him and first getting involved. Okay, where when you saw the change, I used to ask my girls this, my track girls, was the change before or after?
After.
After,
It
after.
was after.
It was after. And then from that on, from
It
that point
got
on, it built more and more.
escalated. It built more and more. It was
Because
so
I got
bad.
you. I
Yeah,
got you. So
it
you
was
all
bad.
walk
He didn't
away.
want me around friends. He
Yeah.
didn't want. It's like he had to have me right there next to him, as and that's like very controlling. Nobody can't say nothing to you, or it was bad. It was like really bad. I think when that happened, it made it worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um now, um the question was asked, what was your worst abusive experience? What was your worst abusive experience?
One day, I was at my grandmother's house. Me, my sister, we had some friends over, and some of my neighbors and stuff was outside. So we had went outside. And next thing you know, you hear somebody saying, "Oh, look up." They did. I said his nickname. They said, "Look a Bug. He coming down the street. Coming down the street." And he said to me, and I looked at him, and I was going to go in the house. And I'm like, "What is he doing here?" So he came, usual with some flowers, this, that, and the other. And he asked me to come with him. I said no. And I said, "Please go away. I don't want to speak to you anymore." And he said, "Well, if I'm not gonna have you, nobody else can." He
Hammers.
took me, grabbed me, drugged me down the street. I'll never forget this, 68 and 17. He drugged me down the street, put me in a car, drove off. While we in that car, he's telling me how much he loved me, and if I don't want to be with him, he's gonna kill me, all type of stuff. And I was so afraid because I believe it because I saw his eyes.
Mhm.
And when I saw his eyes like that, I began to say, I said, and I prayed in my mind. I said, God, what am I going to do? So the first thing I heard was go along with it.
Mhm.
So I let him drive, and he said everything that he needed to say, saying all type of things. And I said, okay, well, we could get back together, and stuff like that to him, to try to keep him calm and
Mhm.
stuff like that. He drove me around for 2 hours.
Mm.
2 hours. So I tried my best to make it seem like we still gonna be together, and I'm gonna pack my stuff and I'm gonna leave with you and all type of stuff. But by that time, my sister, she called the police. So by the
Mm.
time he got and turned the corner for the instead of him driving me back to the house for me to get my things, when he saw the police sirens, heard the police sirens, he let me off at the corner.
Mm.
I ran until down the street to my house. My sister was outside, and I just remember hugging her, and we was crying in the middle of the street. And I said she just began to pray with me right there in the middle of the street. When the police came, I gave them the description, I gave them the car and the tag number of their vehicle, or whatever. And that's like maybe had to be the worst. Cause that day I never was drugged, I never was hit like that. I never, it was like a lot in that moment. And what made it worse was the people that lived on my block, they stood there and watched him. Nobody helped me.
Ready to say.
Nobody
Yeah.
helped me. I'm like, why y'all standing
Yeah.
there and nobody's helping? Y'all see me crying, y'all see me screaming, and no one helped me.
Yeah.
I think you touched on it last week, Doc. A lot of times, people are kind of hesitant about getting involved because they've seen it before. Get involved, and then that it turns around,
Mhm.
where that abuser, not the abuser, but one who's getting abused, that they be like, no, no, leave him alone, whatever, and it's okay, and turn around. So sometimes people, not saying that is right, that
Right.
it's okay. But that was the question I was just getting ready to ask her. Did anybody on the block come to your rescue at all? And you already answered that. But this is the question I want to ask you.
I
And
can't
a
hear
lot
you.
of times, I think I asked Sabrina this too. Was there that one friend that you wanted to share with, but you was a little ashamed or embarrassed or however or afraid to share it? Was there any time that you wanted to share with
I
someone?
can't hear. Can y'all hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh, I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay.
Was there any time
I
that
can't hear Jeffrey.
You can't hear Jeffrey?
you can't hear
No.
me? Why you
Okay.
can't hear me?
Okay. Okay.
Hold on. Hold on.
He was. Oh, she went. Can you hear him? Can you
How
hear
about
me?
now?
I
How
can
about
hear
now?
you, yes.
You can hear me now?
I can't hear no Jeffrey. I can't hear you.
She can't, Jeffrey.
Why
Okay.
you can't hear me?
He was asking, was there like that one friend, anybody who might have known that you didn't tell or you wanted to tell, you didn't tell because you were embarrassed?
I used to have a best friend named Sapetria. I wanted to, but I didn't. I didn't have the heart to do it. Now I know if I did, she probably would have went gangster on him. But I did it. I was very afraid of him. Even
Mm.
after we stopped dating and
Oh,
I finally escaped from him. And I believe, I believe the worst experience was when he tried to kill me.
yeah.
He broke into my mother's house at the time where
Wow.
we was living. And luck by the great he was talking about all this, nonsense about you don't want to be with me, I'm gonna kill you and all type of stuff. And I remember him leaving. And my friend Chad called me. He was a friend of mine from my church. And thank God he did. Because I didn't hear him. I didn't know he took my keys, and I didn't know he re-entered my home. And when he re-entered the home, he heard me talking on the phone. So he snatched the phone. I guess he heard it was a male, so he really got it raised then. And the phone didn't never turn off.
Mm.
And while he was sitting there beating on me, and then he used it to cut my leg, and I still have a gash on my leg right now. And Chad called my sister, and then my sister called my godmother because she was closest to me. And she called the ambulance, turned the sirens off, got to my home. After my Gotti did, the police came, and then my sister came. That's what saved my life. Because he was in there trying to kill me then. Because I didn't want to be. I made it very clear that I was leaving you. I made it very clear that I didn't want to be in your life. And he just got worse. I think he beat me that day worse than any time he ever did. And that's the day he tried to kill me. And it's funny because that's the very day that I supposed to have started at Department of Corrections.
Mm.
I never forget. And I had to call in because, of course, that situation was going on. And it was kind of embarrassing too, because hey, that's supposed to be my first day, at work. And but they was very sympathetic. My mother, called and let them know what was going on, and I can start, 2 days later, so I can get some things clarified and taken care of. And I did when I got there because I already knew people there. I used my resources and I made sure he went to prison. I did.
Wow. And you know what? And before Elder Brown comes on, and that's why we say whenever a victim survivor tries to leave the perpetrator, it's the worst time, because
Yes.
now he has lost all the control. He's no longer controlling you. Because now you're taking things into your own hands. This is what I want to do. Now he can't control you anymore. And so if I can't have you, ain't nobody else going to have you. And I'm going to control this scenario. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take that. I'm so glad that you were able, because I want to go back to, and so in the story then, when he beat you up in the car, did you go back to him?
No.
Okay.
I tried everything I could to escape him. No, but he just kept, coming, and you know how people try to come, they stalk you more like.
Yes.
That's what he was doing. So he tried to come wherever he knew that I was and thought I would be, calling people, friends, and stuff like that. But no, I did not. After that time, I didn't. And I remember one time he came. I don't know how he even. That's why never leave your doors unlocked.
Amen.
Because that's how he was able to come in.
Amen.
And that's how he was able to, to come, and we had that argument and fight and this, that, and other. He left with my keys.
Did you get a restraining order against him? Did you do any police reports beside that? You did get an injunction for
Yes, I
protection?
did.
Thank you.
Yes, I did. I used to call the police, and I never forget. And I have nothing against the police. Let me make that disclaimer right now. I don't. But sometimes, in my experience, they didn't help me. They didn't do anything. You saw the bruises. You saw the marks. His mother was there, even though she took up for her son. They did nothing. They let him go. They didn't even arrest him. They didn't even put him in handcuffs.
How long
But
ago
they
was
did
that?
allow me to call my mom to come and pick me up.
How long ago was that?
Maybe 12 years ago.
Okay, because the laws have changed. I'm just saying that. And I understand the frustration because, and I don't know, police department, we don't want to say it and everybody be writing into
Right.
Elder Brown. But the law says if there's probable cause. Now, in your situation, if you were at the house, he was at the house, you had bruises on there, there's probable cause. They saw the furniture was broken, whatever. They should have made an arrest. Now, I don't know the whole scenario, but technically, if they have probable cause to believe that domestic violence did happen, if they didn't, then they should have put out an affidavit, an arrest affidavit, to come and make sure that all these elements. I'm not a police officer. I just work as a victim advocate. That all the elements were there. That now, for instance, let's say if you were at your house and he was there and they didn't see it. Okay, I don't know about making arrests, but if you were at the house, his mom was there, ain't nothing happened. But I see broken this and broken that, and your bruises. They should have took some pictures. Something should have happened. And so I know the laws have changed now that is their mandate. And a lot of times they will make an arrest. They don't care. Y'all can situate it in court. I'm not going to bother with this. You hit her, let the judge take care of it. Because if you had ended up dead, that would have been a lawsuit, because they had everything that was there. They had everything probable cause to make an arrest. They had you, the victim. They had the evidence. And all of a sudden now they come back, you're dead. Then your parents could have filed something because they did not do something at that time. And so I'm just one of the things, and I know Brother Jeff has something. One of the things while you were telling your story, I believe you said that when you had a black eye, you tried to cover it up. And so
I
would you
did.
just put on a lot of makeup? Because a lot of times we tell people who are victims of domestic violence is, as we discussed last week, they try to hit you in a bathing suit zone from the here to the bottom, so you put clothes on, you can't see it. But if you got hit in the eye, did you wear glasses? Did you wear makeup? How did you disguise that? And if you did, when somebody asked you, what did you say what happened?
Well, I put makeup on, of course. I didn't wear glasses because I felt like my face was so small. Don't so I had put a lot of makeup on. And when somebody did ask me, I used my anemia to say, you know how your eyes will look black around there when your iron is low. That's what
Wow.
I used to say.
Oh,
Wow.
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 Yeah.
Wow. You can hear me now?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
go
All
ahead.
right.
Go ahead.
Listen, question. Where are you now when it comes to men? Or I asked this, but we didn't get the answer from Sabrina. Where are you now when it comes to men going through what you've gone through? How how difficult is it now or before what for you to allow? I don't know if you're married or in a relationship or whatever, but if you're in a relationship or you married, how long was it for you to allow any man to come close to you or just experience the touch of a man?
It was 3 years.
Mm,
3 years after, because honestly, at that time I felt like all men was the same. So if that person treated me that way, the next person would too. And I was a little bit afraid
yeah.
to even want to speak to a man, to be honest. I always was nice and I have a good personality. That never changed. But for you to come to my close vicinity, I didn't. No, I cannot date anyone. No, because I wouldn't have been no good, because I feel like I'm in fear of my life. I
Mhm.
don't know if you're going to hit me. I don't know how you're going to talk to me. I don't know how you're going to approach me. I don't know what you're going to do. So in my mind frame is everybody is a how would I say, I was always the victim.
Yeah.
So now I feel like you always going to be the aggressor. So I don't know, I was afraid back then. And then let me say this too. How sometimes you feel like you escape someone because you're not physically with them.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mentally.
you sometimes when
Yeah.
you leave, you
Yeah.
still a victim
That's
in
right.
your mind.
That's right.
Because I remember one time when I thought I was over it. It was like maybe 2 years later, I believe I saw him in the store. I never forget this. I heard his voice.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped everything in the store and left and was praying and ran all the way home. I think I left my car in the parking lot and just ran to my apartment because it wasn't that far.
Wow.
And you can still be imprisoned when
Mm-hmm.
you're not in prison, if that makes sense.
Right.
Let
Because
me
you're
ask.
imprisoning your mind, in your heart, and your spirit, because now you still connected to that person. That person still have a hold on you when and that's a big thing sometimes with survivors. As you becoming a survivor, not only do you have to physically break yourself away, but mentally break yourself away from that person, because fear can still be there. And for me, that fear was still there. For me to I didn't even know it until I saw him and heard him to know. And I never forget, when I got home, I went in my closet and asked God to remove that stronghold from me. I asked him to remove that fear, because I've always been a praying woman. And I went in there and I prayed and I cried. I never forget that. And I called my grandma for everything. And I called my my grandmama, and I'm like, "Grandma," and she said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Come to me." I said, "Not right now, Grandma. I need God to hear me, but I want you to come in agreement with me." And we prayed. We prayed because I really needed to break that off of me.
That's
So
it.
sometimes, as we going through our process of being a victim of domestic violence, we need that time to heal, to remove that brokenness and that stronghold that we have with that person. And it takes a while. It does. Some people can move on, quick as others. But for me, because I'm an emotional person, because I'm a loving, caring, it takes time for me to not care about a person anymore. It's like you have to train your mind all over again, and
They,
then
they
you have to go through a spiritual cleanse.
they call that learned helplessness. and domestic violence and trauma bonding, because I'm listening to you now, and I know I hear you're spiritually with your Christian faith, but I also want to ask you, and we looked at 9 years, and we talked about this last week. 9 years is a long time for being mental bondage. Like you said, physical pain,
Yes,
okay, you can
Lord.
go, but you were 9 years in mental bondage. And so that's why I'm glad he asked that. How did you break away from that? Because even if you didn't go to counseling, that's still in you. And I usually tell people, if they don't have counseling or support groups or talking, to journal, because you got to get that stuff out of you. Yeah, it have to, because if not, like Elder Brown was saying, that every time you look at somebody, a man, that's going to come up. And so as your healing process, and I'm so glad by talking about it, as your healing process, I know you prayed, I know you did all that, but there might be someone that's listening that might not have that as of yet, as your strong foundation. And so one, I want to ask you, did you go through some type of cleansing besides prayer? Did you journal? If you didn't go to counseling, did you journal? Did you do self-help books? Did you go to counseling with or support groups? And I know you also prayed. And then as a Christian, what did that do to your faith going through something like this?
I didn't get counseling, but I did write. I always been a writer. So I used to journal all the time, books and books and books and notebooks of me writing how I felt.
Excellent.
And that was my release. I didn't go to a therapist. I didn't tell my pastor. I didn't, speak on it much. And can I be honest? I never really spoke about it until Missy Lane. I'm pretty sure she's on here now watching. It was because of her.
Mhm.
Honestly, I have to give her the credit because I never even talked about it. And when I remember when I first did it, I went home and cried. I'm like, Tara, I couldn't even believe you even spoke about it.
Yeah.
And the people that's close to me didn't even know I was even going through it. And some of my majority of my family didn't until the latter part of when the major thing happened. And that was a breakthrough for me. So she really is the one that, I have to give honor to, because she blessed me with me being able to even talk about it out loud,
Mhm.
because I wrote so many books, licks that I have in my home, journaling just how I felt, how it made me feel as a woman, how it made me feel as a wife, how it might affect me later on in life. And that was my therapy. Writing always been a therapy for me. And then honestly too, singing and praying always. You can't tell me I can't sing. And that's always been an outlet for me.
And so how did that make you feel? And I know you're a Christian. God, I'm doing this. How do I allow myself to get in this situation? Lord, where are you at? How can I escape this? Who's going to believe me? Because now as I say this, I'm embarrassed, because I look back in the rearview mirror and said, that's me. I'm telling my story, but is that really me? I'm looking at did I really allow this to go through this? And God, I'm a woman of faith, and I'm doing this. And how did you build up your self-esteem, in your faith, that you went through this for 9 years? You got a praying grandmother, you praying, you're singing. And how did you get yourself to say, Lord, and we know the scripture, woman at the well, I know you can make me whole.
Right.
But what was it? How did you say, okay, God, I'm going to trust you and not have low self-esteem? Because as women, it does bother us. You're beautiful,
Yes.
I'm all this. How can I allow this man to control me? I came up in a loving family. I'm trying to love him, God, because you said love the unlovable. I'm gonna be a witness to him. I got the scriptures.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this, Lord. But in the meanwhile, I'm falling. So how did you get to say, okay, Lord, help me not to be the doormat no more. Help me to lean on you, and then encourage my own self that it's okay what I went through, but God, you're going to use it for your glory.
Right. It never shook my faith. For whatever reason, I always had great faith, but it did shook my confidence in who I was as a woman. And I
Yes.
had suffered for some years, with low self-esteem. Now that's how I was affected by it, but it never affected my faith.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for that. That's what I actually stood on, and that's what got me through.
Mhm.
And like I said, God has always been my foundation,
Mhm.
always. And I thank God for my grandmother for that. Even now, people always say you have crazy faith. You could go through the most traumatic things in life, but you have one of those people that don't shake your faith. Now, it may shake you,
Mhm.
but it don't shake your faith. And that's me. It shook me. And I began to now what I questioned God about was about me. I say, God, well, why did I let this happen? I say,
Yes.
God, I'm smart, I'm
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, I have
Mm-hmm.
something to offer. I'm saying stuff
Yes.
like that to
Yeah.
God,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it, like you said, it shook me, it shook my confidence. I'm like, I felt like I was ugly. I felt like I didn't bring nothing to the table. I felt like I was worthless, because that's how he made me feel. And
Yes.
for be honest, a long time I felt that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it affected, when I did, try to start, dating after that 3-year period. And it may become like you feel like, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the effect that I had when I was, outside of dating him. I began to question who I was with everybody that I dated. So, and then, sometimes when you're in a relationship and okay, I always been a person that want to be married. And so God, I'm pretty sure he's sick of me praying for that. But but you know what it does sometimes make you feel insecure about you, that you're not
Yes. Yeah.
worthy of somebody
Yeah.
loving you to marry
Yeah.
you, because you think about certain stuff that happened in your life,
Yes.
especially
Mm-hmm.
when you went through domestic violence. So you
Yeah.
start, well, am I worthy? If he didn't want me, then this person
Somebody
don't
else.
want me. So
Yes.
those the things
Yeah.
that I was thinking in my mind. And if I can be honest, 2018 was the year that I finally got out of that mentality. It's like a light clicked on and said, Terrell, do you realize who you are? Girl, you are great. And
Yeah.
and God just reminded me of who I was, because I remember praying, say, God, show me who I am in you.
Yeah.
And that's how I got built back up
Yeah.
in the word of God. And I need to tell that to everybody. God's word will never change.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Whoever God say that you are, that's exactly who you are meant to be. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you are perfect in his image. So nobody never let anybody tell you who you not,
Yeah.
unless God tell you himself.
Yeah.
But he tells you that you're worthy. He tells you
Yeah.
that you are more than precious jewels. And we have to believe that as women,
Yeah.
that we are worthy of love. We are worthy of kindness. We are worthy of everything that God has promised us. And I believe we will get that in a man form, and then with a man in a woman form, if we just wait.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you the question about you how are you handling like dating again or with a guy or because that sometimes can
Mm-hmm.
stick in your head and you'll flip it on yourself. Like you said, you
Right.
start make
Hmm.
yourself feel like with the low self-esteem. That's why I really asked that to see how did you fight through it, how did you push through it. But I see once you just decided in your mind that you were going to stick to the word of God and trust God. And we said it last night on Monday meditation and prayer. The young lady, Elder Ellis, she said last night that you got to trust God even in the midst
Come
Mm-hmm.
of
on.
your difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And you just determined that you was going to trust God
Yeah.
even in
Yeah.
the midst of that. Broken, you still trust God.
Yes, Lord.
Heartbroken, you still going to trust God. Hurting,
Yes, Lord.
you still gonna
Mhm.
trust God. In pain, you still decided to trust God. And
Yep.
I just believe God just showed you. And sometimes we don't understand a lot of times why
Mm-hmm.
we go through what we go through.
Right.
You were asking God, like like Job was asking, where are you? Why you
Yep.
got me in this? I honor you. I exalt you. I speak to you.
Mm.
God, I love you. Why do you
Yep.
have this? Why are you allowing all this to happen in my life? But as we see tonight, that you're stronger, you're wiser
Yes, Lord.
what you've gone through. And man, listen, I just thank God for you. Now I'm gonna ask you this:
Okay.
no kids, right?
No, no kids.
No kids. See, look at God. He shielded all
No.
that, just like with Sabrina.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
He-
did. And and
because
I'm grateful for that.
yeah,
I'm
because
very
you
grateful.
would have been forever connected to
Naked.
that,
Yeah.
and it really was going to take God hands upon you to break you from that to let you
Right.
get a part of it. So how do you still have the moments um when you are dating, or you just totally, like you said, you really let that go, but every now and then you have like, you know
No, I
you
don't have no
does it make
thoughts
you more
of.
aware?
Yes, it does. It
of
makes me
the
more
time.
aware. But I want to go back to something you said first. I want to say this. When you said about us trusting God, yesterday I had a conversation with one of my ex coworkers, and I told her we're always going to be in a season of trusting God. When
Mm-hmm.
you're in a good season or a bad season, it's never not a season that we don't trust God. We are always going to forever be a season of trusting God. And I want to just say that one by you saying it,
Mhm.
because like you said,
Yeah.
in pain, through good, through bad, you're going to always be in a season of trusting God. That season would never change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's everlasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
to
it's how
go
you
ahead.
navigate. It's how you allow God
Right.
to navigate you through it. Yeah.
Right. And then but now I don't have a problem with no flashbacks, no rethinking stuff of that. It took me a long time to get here. Now don't get me wrong now, because I had my time of questioning and crying and things like that. But now, no. I'm confident in who I am. Nobody gonna ever treat me that way, and you're gonna respect who I am and value me, or you won't be in my life.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's
How
good.
often do you get an opportunity to share that or share that with a young teenager, a young girl that
Mm-hmm.
was your age, um,
Um,
that you
three
that you
months ago.
didn't see it? Yeah. Yeah.
3 months ago, I was at Lotus House, and sometimes I go there to minister to the girls, and they allow me to come in, sometimes every month or whenever I'm able, and I let them know because I do like this little class with them, like to teach them to value themselves, and when you value yourself, is there's a lack of chance you'll let somebody come in to devalue you.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in there as a, advocate to say, love yourself. Even now, the young ladies in that I'm over with our youth ministry, I always instilled in them that they are wonderful, they are worthy, they are beautiful, because sometimes as kids growing up, because of the society that we live in, your peers can make you feel, it don't
Mm-hmm.
even have to be a man, but your peers can make you feel like you less worthy because you may have less, or you may not dress like them or look like them. And I think that it starts from home, and sometimes when you don't have it at home, God will allow people to enter into your life to minister you, to encourage you, and show you who you are, to believe in yourself. So I believe I had to go through it to teach others to learn how to love themselves when I first had to learn how to love me,
That's it.
because people will come in your life to break you down. So you have to know how to love you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's great, and I mean that's what this platform is about. That's what the vision that God gave me when I started the South Florida Live podcast is to help others that are going through what we're going through, because we can't take for granted or just assume we're the only ones that's going through these journeys, having these trials and tribulations. But there are plenty other ones that are out there listening to you right now that are going through it. And I hope something that you said is have broke some change and making some change in their life. Wow. Once again, I thank you, Doc. You got some more questions?
No,
Let's
I
see.
was going. I think. Thank you so much for sharing. I think you brought out some from your experience, especially when you just gave the green light to say that your father wasn't there and you were looking for love in the wrong places in a man to replace that. And in this generation now, there are quite a few young ladies in middle school and in high school looking for the same thing.
Right.
Looking for the same thing. Whether I heard he's buying you stuff, stuff that you want to feel and quote unquote important, and so
Right.
they take it to another level. And I'm so glad you shared that. I'm so glad that you shared that you journal, because some people might not be able to go to counseling, but you have to get that out. And your honesty
Yes.
was it. You were there for about 8 years or so, and that you still, even when he beat you up, you still went back, and that's normal. That I want to tell
Right.
people,
Yeah, that's
don't
normal.
judge
Yeah.
nobody. That's a normal process.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it is what it is, and that's normal until you break away, because that was almost your first love.
Right.
Your
Mm-hmm.
first love. Although grandma and all that was there, but that was a first love as a man. And so maybe I
Right.
can just change him. He don't beat me up all the time, but he give me this, he give me
Yeah.
this. Let me just love him. Y'all don't understand this. So everybody who being judgmental, y'all
Mhm.
don't understand. I love this man. And as they say, there's a thin line between love and hate. But when you
Right.
finally, I tell people, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and enough is enough. It
Yeah.
don't matter how many people help you. It don't
That's
matter how
right.
many people give you money.
Yeah.
It does not
That's
matter, but
right.
you have to make that decision. And as we said last week,
Right.
I could not have made you. Your grandma could not have made you. We could have been there to support you, because if we
Right.
control you, we're doing just like what he does. So you
Right.
have to make that decision when you're okay, girl. I'm here with you. And if you go back, okay, you went
Right.
back, whatever. If he gonna kill you, you know. But you have to make that decision. I'm so glad
Right.
that you had the ounce and the courage to leave that situation, be honest enough and say this was not a quick fix. It took me 3 some years to get over this, because I was still a prisoner in my mind. And so I'm glad that you journal to get that out. And some people need to understand that if you are not ready to leave now, and we talked about this last week, to develop a safety plan, to
Right.
understand, get a safety plan when you're ready to leave. If you can't, talk to somebody. And I'm going to give the 1-800 number for the domestic violence hotline. It's 1-800-799-7233. And that's the national number, 800-799-7233. So if anybody's listening to this locally or whatever, and if you're a victim or survivor of domestic violence, you can call that, because next week we'll probably get into the effects of the children, because the law is now,
Mm.
the Child Protective Services will come out if you and your partner are fighting in front of the children, because
That's
now
good.
is a part of almost like domestic violence, because now the children are witnessing this and you're putting them in danger. And so that's another aspect. I know it is here in Florida. I don't know anywhere else, but Child Protective Service will come out and either they'll arrest you, it'll be domestic violence and child abuse, and that's a whole nother gamut, because now the children, as you say your boyfriend was, his family was arguing. Now the children are saying, "Mommy and
Right.
Daddy back. Ain't nobody intervention. I'm gonna grow up like this." And we notice that in children as early as the age of 2 or 3, they're acting out in daycare. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they see what's going on at the home.
In the home.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I thank you so much for sharing your story. My prayer is that God will continue to let you be transparent. I'm so glad that he is empowering you with your self-esteem, because we can be pretty and still have low self-esteem. We can
That's
be
right.
highly educated
Mhm.
and still
That's
have
right.
low self-esteem. So I thank God for that. And I'll be just praying for you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. This is good. I told y'all this will be real good. Before I let you go, Miss Thomas, I mean, I want to say this. Those, I think we said it on last week. If you're in that situation, if you're in that that abusive situation, I think we talked about it last week, Doc, about an exit plan.
Mm-hmm.
An exit plan.
Yeah.
I think Sabrina said, you wash some clothes, and while you wash some clothes, you may uh, take some over to a friend house or family
Yeah.
friend
Come on.
house.
That's
Um,
right.
do some things that when you get that opportunity that way, you don't have to come back for clothes, you don't have to come back for shoes. A lot of your stuff is already, you got enough time. So there's an exit plan that you need to work on, and I've been since we started this, I've been doing so much research on domestic violence. It's a lot of things that you can do
Yeah.
to prepare yourself for exit plan. But like you said, it's on your timing. It has to be when you're ready, because nobody else can we can tell you, but until you make it up in your mind to say enough is enough, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Um you're in that situation. So Miss Thomas, I need you to do this for me. There's a young lady, there's a teenager that's watching. She thinks she's in love. She matter of fact, she feels she talks to them 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day, and he still treats her like she's nobody, but she loves him. But she but he's popular, like you were saying, he's a popular guy. Everybody know him, but he treats you like he's treating her like she's nobody, and but she still feels she has to communicate with him every day, all day. Um, and she's headed down that road because she's seen some things in her household, that to her sometimes it seems like that's just a normal life. It's okay. Speak to that young lady for me, and if she was in front of you, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to evaluate her. I would say to her, I will ask her, do you love yourself? And based off what she answered, I can only tell her that God loves you. And if he's treating you the way God loves you, then stay. If he don't, leave.
Wow.
Run for your life because your life is at stake. It matters who you speak to, it matters who you engage in. It matters because your life, your purpose, your anointing is at stake. And as a young lady, you deserve better. Evaluate your life as a whole. Whatever you believe that you're missing is not in a man. It is founded in God and is founded within yourself. That's what I would tell her.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, ladies. Hey, y'all. You've been locked into the South Florida Live podcast. We are talking domestic violence, and we have a survivor, and she have shared her journey and her testimony with us. What a powerful testimony. And thank you, Doc, for being with us on this evening. Wow. 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 Y'all about to, y'all getting close.
Mr.
But
Jeffrey, I gotta say something to you,
yes,
if
ma'am.
that's okay. It's something that you mentioned about men, because sometimes we do so much with women
Yeah.
that sometimes men get overlooked, and I believe that's why a lot of men don't come out so much.
Yeah.
But I remember, I have such a passion for men for whatever reason God has, and I remember writing a book, Anointed to Encourage, and
Mm,
then God told me to write one for men, and it was Anointed to Encourage, and men need encouragement too.
Yes.
Because a lot of times men are overlooked because they're supposed to be strong. They
Right.
supposed to be the one that's the protector. They supposed to be, but sometimes they not always being protected either
mhm.
by a woman or somebody they supposed to love, or by their mother. That's why they go through abuse.
Right.
So I believe as you continuously go forward, find those men
Yeah.
I'm
and
trying.
get with them and encourage them to speak out, because form a group for them, because we have so many women that men need a safety net as well.
Right.
So I encourage you to continuously go forth with that and continuously encourage the men to come forth so they can have a place for them as well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that God laid everything on your heart. The reason why you said that, because it's important, because like a single person like me, we need strong men. We need healed men. We need delivered men.
Right.
And it takes another one like yourself and others to build them back up.
Right.
So I encourage you to continuously doing that. Everything that you're doing, I believe that is great. And you continue to let God lead you.
Amen.
Yeah. I trust me. I've been pushing that for a minute. I really have. We did a episode earlier this year. I had assembled a group of guys. Bishop Melvin Dawson, a friend of mine, Michael Norman, and a few other Pastor Vernon Sagier.
Yeah.
We gathered together on this platform, and we called it an evening with the brothers. Am I my brother's keeper? And we talked about how we grew up in the man, and how we think we got to be macho and we don't cry, and we've been told as growing up, boy, suck it up, and that type of stuff. And we are ones that we deal with things in silence.
Right.
We'll get quiet waiting for somebody to ask us what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do it, and when we're asked what's wrong, then we quick to say nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I trust me, I am so pushing that. If I can just find somebody, one man, one male that don't mind telling the story and being brave enough to tell it, and we can't push it. And that's the
Right.
thing about men, is that it's kind of easy to get the woman don't ladies don't mind telling that story, because
Right.
this is the thing. I feel, Doc, you can correct me. I feel, being that the woman has that nurturing spirit, that we're always trying to change and make things better for everybody. You see a sister, and sisters are always trying to help sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
and for some reason, as a brother, we don't have that bond. We
Mm-hmm.
we send we tend to separate and disconnect
Right.
ourselves from other brothers, feeling like we can't have that bond or that closeness with brothers. Now it's a tough situation. Now it's a tough.
It is.
It is tough. But I believe and I trust God. I'm gonna continue to pray about it. I need y'all to continue to pray about it. That we're gonna have that one
Yeah.
that's gonna break the ice, and we can have that conversation.
Mm.
They're gonna share their testimony with us on sometime soon. Maybe
Amen.
not the end of this year, next year.
Next year.
Amen. I'm
Yeah,
with you. I'll be praying.
yeah, I appreciate that, Ms. Thomas. Yeah, I really have, and that's my thing. That I just believe in wanting to help others um get better and make help others on along their way. As I say, if I can help somebody along the way,
Mighty well.
living is not in vain. So
Amen.
that's where I am. That's where I am. That's what this platform is about. It ain't about me. It's about what God gives me to do. So, ladies, thank you,
Thank
you, Ms.
Thank
Thomas.
you.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Wow.
you coming on and sharing your
Yes.
testimony. Because once again, like I said, I know it's not easy to go back and reflect on things. Or sometimes we just want to leave it alone and let it lay where it lay, and don't want to pick it back up. But I thank you. I really do. Dr. Burton, thank you for pushing this to me. Like I said, she inboxed me some time back, and I know she thought I wasn't gonna get back to her, but
Yeah.
in timing is everything. So thank you, ladies. I appreciate
Yes.
y'all so much. And I'm praying for both of you. Thomas, I'm continuing to pray for you. Doc, always praying for you. So hey, thank you, and God bless you.
See you
bless
until
you.
next
Thank
week.
you.
Have a wonderful week. Bye bye.
Yeah,
You
hey,
too.
listen. Next week.
All
All
right.
all the Tuesdays were great, powerful, and love you. But hey, you definitely don't want to miss next
Okay.
You do not. You do not.
because we're dealing with domestic violence, but y'all, we got the abuser coming on next week. And
Uh-oh.
share their testimony. Yes, we got our abuser coming on next week and just going to share the testimony how God just intervened and turned it all around and straightened them up and washed them in the blood. Shout
Yep.
out.
Yes, Lord. Come on.
So, yeah, you don't want to miss that.
You
You
don't want
don't
to miss
miss.
next week.
You don't want
I
to miss
won't.
next week. You don't want to miss next week. So everybody that's viewing and watching, set your alerts, set your calendars for
Yes.
next Tuesday, 7
Yes.
p.m. We listen. You want to be here for that one because I'm
Yes.
excited about that one.
Me
So
too. Me
once
too.
again, ladies, thank you. God bless you. God keep you. Thank you
Bless
so
you.
much. Love y'all.
All right, be blessed. Thank
Love
you,
you
Sister
too.
Thomas.
You welcome. Y'all have a good night.
All right.
Likewise. Bye bye.
All right, y'all. You've been locked into the South Florida Live Podcast. Listen, I thank everyone for viewing. I thank you for your comments. I thank you. 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 I thank you for being a part of this episode on tonight. I told y'all it was going to be a power pack conversation, and I love it. I love how the ladies are coming on and just sharing their testimony, sharing their journey, because it's not an easy thing to do, and I know that. So once again, thank you to Ms. Thomas. Thank you to Dr. Burton for joining me on tonight. Thank you for you guys that's viewing. Thank you so much. Thank you for your comment. Hey, listen, I want to say thanks to my supporters, my supporters, my partners that have invested financially into this podcast. I really appreciate you. I try and say it as often as I can when I go live. I really do. I thank you. I thank you, everybody who always present something or send something, Zelle or Cash App. I thank you because it helps me I put that little stuff aside because I'm trying to do something greater for next year, and we want to go a little more digital on next year. So hey, listen, so if you want to be a part of this, support this podcast, if you will, our information is scrolling down the bottom of the screen. We Cash App $ Power of Glory 777. Our Cash App is $ Power of Glory 777. Our Zelle is Jeffrey Brown 2094 at gmail.com. That's Jeffrey Brown, JFFERY Brown at 2094 at I'm sorry, at 2094 at gmail.com. Jeffrey Brown 2094 at gmail.com. All right. thank you once again. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate everyone. Thank you. Hey, y'all, listen, tomorrow, you don't want to miss this singles edition. Don't miss the singles edition tomorrow. It's been on fire. The singles edition has been on fire. You don't want to miss it. And then we're going to have our episode after that. Let's talk about the things that matter at 8:00. You don't want to miss that episode either. We're going to talk about this election. That's what's going on and what's brewing and what's happening, and give you some information on what you need to do and what you still need to do, some things that should happen. All right. So it's the singles edition, 7:00. Let's talk about the thing that's matter tomorrow at 8. Be a part of that for me. Thank you so much. Hey, y'all, I love you. That's an action word. I love you. Nothing you can do about it. Hey, as I always say, I pray for you. Hey, y'all, don't play with me now. Y'all better be praying for me, and we're going to watch God change things. God bless you.
Email your idea for show topics to the South Florida Live Show at gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in to South Florida Live with your host, Jeffrey Brown.